Morning, everybody. Morning. I just want to say it is so good to see Jumpin' Joe Beasley back with us this morning. Amen. I also want to say I'm so glad that the Cochrans have been coming here with us. Nick, what are you doing? Just so everybody knows who Mr. Nick is. Nick, will you stand up for a second and give everybody a smile? Now, does that not make y'all ready? I want to invite you to open up with me this morning to the Gospel of Matthew chapter 7. Matthew chapter 7, I want to thank Brother Mike for preaching last Sunday. I heard a lot of good things, and Brother Lance as well. It sure is nice having some guys that can stand in and always do a good job, and you don't have to worry about whether or not the pulpit's being taken care of. I appreciate that. It wasn't long ago I told y'all about a man that I witnessed to that he said that he didn't really believe the Bible because he believed that the Bible was written by ancient Middle Eastern hippies that were high on marijuana. And I thought when I heard that, I thought, I've heard it all. Like, I will never, for the rest of my life, I'll never hear anything as crazy as that. And I was wrong. I was very wrong. This past Friday, I went to see somebody that I've been needing to go and see. Knocked on the door, they wasn't home. And I went to walk back to my truck, and this truck comes coming. It's out in the country on the dirt road. This truck comes down the dirt road, and these people that I went to see, they have chickens that run free in the yard, and these chickens had got out into the road, and this truck comes to a stop, and then he sees me, and kind of pulls in and says, you know, are you okay? Making sure I wasn't, you know, up to no good or whatever. And I thought, well, you know, maybe this is who I was intended to come and see. You know, it's a little divine intervention here. So I went and walked up to his truck and was talking with him, and I said, well, here's my chance. I said, if you died today, where would you go? And he said, I'd go to heaven. And he said it very confidently, I'd go to heaven. So how do you know that? And he said, well, I'm already in heaven. What do you mean? He said, well, my soul is already in heaven. I'm just my soul's shadow. Now, my wife will tell you, it's a very rare occasion when Will Corbett does not have any words to say. I didn't know what to say. My soul is already in heaven. I'm just my soul's shadow. And he starts telling me these different things about heaven. That there are homes suspended in midair. That there's pure white dogs. That there's trees that reach all the way past the clouds and we can climb them. I guess he watched Jack and the Beanstalk. And I asked him, I said, well, how do you know these things? And he explained to me that he can, when his shadow becomes in tune with his soul that is in heaven, he can see what his soul is seeing in heaven. That makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Never heard anything like that in my life. What does that mean? When you get in tune with your soul that's in heaven, you can see what your soul is seeing. So, and I know what you're thinking. Well, Brother William, he was crazy. He wasn't, he was normal. He was as normal as a man I've seen. So, all I knew to do was to run straight at the gospel. And that's what I did. I said, now, according to the Bible, if you died today, you would stand at judgment as a sinner. And then he turned his truck off and opens the door. I step back. He gets out of his truck. I'm thinking, this is it. This is it. I'm in trouble now. And he says to me, listen, I respect where you're coming from, but I'm a Christian Scientologist. Now, I've never heard that one. A Christian Scientologist. He said, now you believe that if you commit, that there are certain sins, and if you commit those sins and don't repent of those sins, then you go to hell. I said, yes, sir. He said, well, what if I told you there's no such thing as sin? I kid you not, the man points at the chickens. And he says, see those chickens right there? He said, they do things that we don't like, but that doesn't mean they're wrong. I'm not making this up. Some of you look at me like, And he said, they do things we don't like, but that doesn't mean they're wrong. They're just doing what they've been made to do. That is their nature. That doesn't make them wrong. He said, it's no different with us. It's our nature. We just do what we've been made to do. And I'm telling you, I'm just sitting there, I'm thinking, this cannot be real. Like, I've got to be dreaming. I cannot be living through this. So here I'm in a situation where it is my job to show him that he needs a Savior. Well, before you know you need a Savior, you've got to acknowledge that you're a sinner. Well, how in the world am I supposed to show him that he's a sinner if he doesn't believe in that there's such thing as sin? So I realized I can't do anything here. And I just told him, listen, I believe the Bible, and if you're not willing to accept the Bible as the authority on spiritual matters, then I can't do anything. And then he said, oh, I believe the Bible. I believe the Bible. I said, you're like I used to be. You believe certain things in the Bible, but other things you want to leave out. We had a little bit more conversation, and I left. And as I was driving away, I realized I missed the perfect opportunity. In his little truck, in his dash, his wallet was laying there in his dash. And what I should have done was, I should have stole his wallet and took off running. When he said there's no such thing as sin, I should have stole his wallet and took off running. And when he caught me, I should have said, I'm just like the chicken. I can't help it. It's my nature. I just do what I'm made to do. But he would have realized right then that there is such thing as sin. So he mentioned to me that he was a Christian Scientologist. Now that goes together as good as dry water or intelligent liberalism. We have been receiving here at the church stuff in the mail from the Scientology folks. About a month ago, they sent us this big, it was in a big yellow folder, a packet from the Scientology folks, and it was pictures of showing them doing their humanitarian efforts and taking water to people and all that kind of stuff. And they're inviting us to help them on a mission project. Us and a lot of other churches. They're wanting us to partner with them in some of their mission projects, and I thought, that is a great idea. We could be on the front page of Alabama Baptist. It would say, Unity Baptist Church partners with Tom Cruise and the Scientologists in delivering waters across the world. If you're like me, and Nick, you need to figure this one out. DirecTV has given us a brand new Scientology channel for free. What's up with that, Nick? I mean, how generous of them to, huh?
I don't have time for TV, so you gotta get out there.
All right. So I did not know what they believe. I've never looked into the things they believe. So I went to Scientology.org, and this is what I found. Scientology is a religion that offers a precise path leading to a complete and certain understanding of one's true spiritual nature and one's relationship to self, family, groups, mankind, all life forms, I guess in case there's aliens, the material universe, the spiritual universe, and the supreme being. Scientology addresses the spirit, not the body or mind, and believes that man is far more than a product of his environment or his genes. Scientology comprises a body of knowledge which extends from certain fundamental truths. Prime among these are, man is an immortal spiritual being. His experience extends well beyond a single lifetime. His capabilities are unlimited, even if not presently realized. Scientology further holds man to be basically good, and that his spiritual salvation depends upon himself, his fellows, and his attainment of brotherhood with his universe. Scientology is not a dogmatic religion in which one is asked to accept anything on faith. On the contrary, one discovers for oneself that the principles of Scientology are true by applying its principles and observing or experiencing the results. The ultimate goal of Scientology is true spiritual enlightenment and freedom for all. Now, if I just kind of take that and break it down a little bit, I have a few questions. They say that they have been enlightened, that they have these elevated truths that the rest of us lame brains don't know anything about. My question would be, where did you get those truths from? You know, maybe they get their theology from the chickens too. They say that once you've been enlightened in Scientology, your capabilities are endless. I'd like to ask them, okay, would you let me push you off a building and see if you can fly? Because if your possibilities are endless, then you should be able to do that. They say that man is good. Do you have kids? And why are there prisons? They say that salvation depends upon ourselves. Could you think of anything more horrifying than that? When I look in the mirror and see Will Corbett, I don't really like what I see. I see a sinner. I see somebody that falls so far short from what he is supposed to be. And the idea that my salvation would be dependent upon me is terrifying. They say that salvation, this is weird. Salvation is dependent upon our attaining brotherhood with the universe. I don't even know what does it mean to be a brother to the universe? I don't know. Our society has a new God. And it is called the God of choices. The God of choices. Our culture, and you've been seeing this, our culture is obsessed with this idea that I have the right to choose. And not just make choices, I mean I have the right to choose my own truth. Truth is what I want it to be. What we're seeing in our culture is a complete shift. Now it does not matter what is true. It doesn't matter what reality is. That doesn't matter. Nowadays what matters is what you want. It's what you want that matters. And whatever it is that you want, it's okay. We will erase what truth has always been, and we will establish whatever it is that you want as the new truth. This is the God of choices. We're all just like those chickens. We're just being what we've been made to be, doing what we've been made to do. We're just following our nature. We cannot help the things that we want. So therefore, the things that we want must not be wrong. The things that we want must be good and true. So we all have our own right to choose our own truth. According to the Bible, we do not have the right to choose our own truth. According to the Bible, truth is what it is. And you can't change it, you can't modify it, you can't edit it, you cannot replace it. Truth is what it has always been, and truth will continue to be what it has always been. I want you to think about this illustration. Imagine there was a man who was obsessed with Superman. That all through his childhood growing up, his favorite superhero was Superman. And even Riley, as a grown man, now that you got your hair fixed, Riley, even as a grown man, he always does I wish I had hair like that. Right? Even as a grown man, his favorite superhero is Superman, and he wants to be just like Superman. He's a grown man. And so, over and over, he watches the Superman movies. He plays with his little Superman action figures. And when he goes to work at his desk job, guess what he's wearing underneath his clothing? A custom-made Superman outfit. He'll be working during the day, and he'll just make sure it's still there. And then when he gets home from work, he locks the doors and closes the blinds and makes sure no one's around. And he runs through the house with his Superman outfit on, with his cape blowing through the wind. And he climbs up on the counter and jumps off onto the couch, pretending to fly from one location to the next. And he has trouble sleeping at night. And so for a nightlight, he uses a green lava lamp, and he pretends that it's his kryptonite. And as he watches the kryptonite, it slowly lulls him to sleep. This is the way he has lived for decades. But finally the day has arrived that he is tired of just being a pretender. He says, you know what, I'm tired of just pretending to be Superman. I think it's time that I become Superman. He climbs up to the top of his apartment building. And he says, you know what, I'm just like the chickens too. I can't help what I want. I can't help the way I am. I want to be Superman, so that must mean I'm not wrong. That must mean that I really am Superman, and since I'm Superman, I can fly, and since I can fly, gravity has no effect on me. And he stands at the edge of the building and says, I'm not a bird, I'm not a plane, I am the Superman, and he launches off, and he falls to his death. Now, do you know what that tells you? It tells you that you can believe whatever you want to believe. You have the right to do that. You can think whatever you want to think. You have the right to do that, and you can choose whatever you want to choose. You have the right to do that. But truth is what it is. And it does not change or adjust because of you or me or anybody else. Truth is a fixed, permanent thing. When Jesus came into this world, He declared to the world what the truth is. And He declared that we can choose what we want to do with the truth, but we cannot choose what truth is. Truth is fixed. He made it clear that in this life there's only two choices. You either accept the truth or you reject the truth, and that's it. The pastor of the church where I preached a revival at this last week, he has been a pastor for 48 years. That is something else, to hang in there that long. And, you know, a lot has changed in 48 years. But even though so much has changed, that man is still preaching the same message today as he was 48 years ago. You know why that is? Truth doesn't change, amen? And just like there's always been, there always will be just two choices. And I want to look at a passage today, Matthew 7, verses 13 to 14. It's just two verses. And I love this passage because within just two verses, Jesus makes it so crystal clear that this is very simple. There's one truth, and you have two choices about what you're going to do with that truth. He says, enter through the narrow gate. For the gate is wide and the way is broad that leads to destruction, and there are many who enter through it. But the gate is small and the way is narrow that leads to life, and there are few who find it. According to this verse, how many gates are there? Just two gates. There's just two gates. There's the narrow gate and there is the wide gate. Each gate represents the two world religions. You may say, well, there's a bunch of religions in this world. Nope, there's just two. There is the religion of what you earn from God. That's one religion. And the other religion is the religion of what God gives to you. Now, the narrow gate is the religion of what God gives to you. This is the Christian religion. This religion says the opposite of what every other religion on the planet says. This religion says, no, man is not basically good. Man is not good at all. There's none that are good. There is none that seek for God. We are totally fallen, depraved, wretched sinners. And the only hope of heaven that we have is if God comes down to this earth, goes to a cross, takes the punishment that we deserve, exchanges our guilt for His perfect righteousness. That's what Jesus did. That is the religion of the narrow gate, what God can give to you. The other religion is the wide gate religion, and that is the religion of what you earn from God. And listen to this. Every other religion, aside from Christianity, teaches that you are saved by what? Works. Every other religion, I'm not talking about Christianity, every other religion says you're saved by works, what you earn from God. So whether it's Buddhism or Islam or Scientology or Mormonism or Catholicism or you name it, you're saved by what you do for God. You follow these teachings, you follow these principles, you live your life in a certain way, and that is how you earn your spot in heaven. That is the wide gate religion. So you've got the narrow gate, and you've got the wide gate. And there's only one gate that leads to heaven, and that's the narrow gate. You know, there's other religions who will actually speak positively of Jesus. There's some of these religions that will use some of Jesus' teaching in their religion. And you know something? Jesus did not come to be somebody's addition that they add to their religion. There was one time when the Pharisees got really angry at Jesus because Jesus was not willing to follow their traditions and their customs of their false religion. Why aren't you doing these things? And Jesus said, let me make this very clear. He said, you cannot pour new wine into an old wineskin. It'll bust. And you cannot take an unshrunken patch and place it on already shrunken fabric, because it'll tear the fabric. So what are you getting at? He says, I did not come as a patch for you to place onto your religion. I didn't come as an addition. My new wine is not compatible with your old wineskin. I did not come to this earth to just work alongside you. I came to this earth for you to bow your face on the ground at my feet and confess me as the Lord God of the universe and the only hope for my salvation. Jesus is not a way and a truth or a teaching. He's the way, He's the truth, He's the teaching, He's the life. And according to Him, there's only one of those. Now you can believe whatever you want to believe. But that wide gate does not open up into heaven. Only the narrow gate does. Only Jesus, only through Jesus can we enter into heaven. So there's two gates, and then He says there's two ways. There's two ways. One of the men I witnessed to this week, I've been witnessing to him off and on for the past several months. And he said he was going to come to the revival I was preaching at this week, and he didn't show up. Went to see him, and he said, how'd the revival go? It went good. And he said, well, what'd you preach on? And I was like, man, you just opened yourself up for that one. I preached 5 sermons. So he got 5 mini sermons right there. And as I was explaining them to him, he's like, I like it. That's good. Oh, I didn't understand. That makes sense to me. I never saw it like that before. And when I meet people like him, I just think to myself, you know, the narrow gate is right here. You're standing right at it. Why don't you just walk on through? Have you ever had that feeling? I mean, you're witnessing to somebody, and it's almost like they're right there, and you just want to tell them, listen, if you'll just walk on through, if you'll just give your life to Jesus, it's instant salvation, instant forgiveness. You're instantly and permanently made a citizen of heaven. Why don't you just go on through? And you see what the problem is in this verse. The deal breaker for most people is this: the narrow gate only opens up to the narrow way. The wide gate only opens up to the broad way. Now, people want the assurance of the narrow gate, but they don't want the narrow way. They want the assurance of the narrow gate, but they want to be able to live the broad way. So what some people try to do then is they try to join the narrow gate to the broad way. I see it all the time. I see it on Sundays, where you can have a saved soul, but not at all have a saved lifestyle. But you can be a Christian, but look nothing like a Christian. You can attach the broad way to the narrow gate, and everything's fine. Just come to church and walk the aisle and say the prayer and get baptized, and then you're in. You have your get out of hell free card. And there's no restrictions, there's no rules, there's no demands. This doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't require you to make any sacrifices. Sin is okay. Truth, who cares? Believe whatever you want to believe. The idea is, I come to church, I pray the prayer, I get up there and get baptized, and then that's it. I've got my get out of hell free card, and I go out there and I live my life, my way, for myself. But every once in a while now, I need to come to church on a Sunday morning and pause for a moment of silence in the name of that whoever it is that died on that cross, and then to go right back out and live my life, my way, for myself. That is the broad way of life, and here is the truth. The narrow gate does not match up to the broad way. Can someone attach the broad way of life to the narrow gate? The answer is absolutely not. Many have tried, but all have failed. The wide gate only opens up to the wide way. The narrow gate only opens up to the narrow way. I was talking with a brother about this the other day, and a lot of you will agree with this. It seems like it's easier to talk to a lost person that knows they're lost than it is to talk to a lost person that thinks they're saved. Because they say that they've entered in at the narrow gate, but they're walking down the broad way. And you care about it, you love them, and so you go to them and you're like, hey, you really, because of the fruit of your life, you have no reason to believe yourself to be a Christian. And what is their comeback? Don't you judge me. You're judging me. People say this all the time. You don't know my heart. I can't tell you how many times I have heard that. You don't know my heart. Well, according to Jesus, I don't have to know your heart. Jesus says, you'll know that tree by its fruit. Or people say, well, you can't judge a book by its cover. Jesus said, you'll know it by its fruit. This idea that, I can have entered in at the narrow gate, I can truly be saved, but not at all look saved. It doesn't work. We can think whatever we want to think. We can believe whatever we want to believe, and we can claim whatever we want to claim. But there is only one way that you know for sure that you've entered in at the narrow gate. And you know what that is? Some preachers say, well, if you ever doubt your salvation, think back to when you were baptized. Or if you ever doubt your salvation, think back to that day when you prayed that prayer and the evangelist signed your Bible. There's only one way you can know for sure that you've been saved. The only way you know you've entered in at the narrow gate is if you're walking down the narrow way, is if you're living that Christian lifestyle. Doesn't mean that walking in the narrow way makes you saved. No, what we're saying is entering in at the narrow gate that makes you saved. Amen? It's giving your life to Christ that makes you saved. But when you're walking in the narrow way, that gives you the assurance that shows you that you have walked in at the narrow gate. And when we talk about the narrow way lifestyle, what are we talking about? You might say, well, we're talking about being a good person. You know, there's a lot of lost people that are good people. I always go back to David. David really dropped the ball. But God approved of him because he said he's a man after my own heart. You know what the narrow way lifestyle is? Do you have a heart that's on fire for God? Do you have a heart that longs from God? Yeah, you sin, but you sure hate your sin. You find yourself like Paul in Romans 7. Man, the thing that I ought to do, I don't do, and the thing I shouldn't do, I find myself doing. Wretched man that I am, who will deliver me from this body of death? I'm such a sinner. And then he says, thanks be to God through Jesus Christ our Lord. Your sin is in your life, but it's a fight because you hate your sin. And you long for righteousness. And you want to know more of God's Word because you want to know more of God. Now listen, it doesn't matter how many times you've been baptized. It doesn't matter how many times you've prayed that prayer. It doesn't matter how much of the Bible you know. It doesn't matter how often you come to church. If you are not walking down the narrow way, if you don't have a heart that needs and longs for God, then you've not entered in at the narrow gate. You're just not saved, according to Jesus Christ. So, there's two gates. There's two ways. And these two ways lead to two destinations. He says either destruction or life. And destruction represents what? Hell. Life represents heaven. Now here's something important to know about the narrow way and the broad way. When you're walking down the narrow way, there's signs all down it that say, to heaven. Telling you that this is the way to heaven. You walk all down the broad way, and there's signs all down it with signs that say, to heaven. Both of them claim that they're leading you to heaven. But only one of them actually do. Only the narrow gate that opens up to the narrow way leads to heaven. But you have Satan, who is the master deceiver, right? He is the father of lies. And all down the broad way, he puts up these signs that says, to heaven, to heaven. Believe whatever you want to believe. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be a Christian. You don't have to give your life to Jesus. There's other ways to heaven. There's so many. And if you don't believe that, get out there in this world and start asking people the point-blank eternal questions. And you will find people who are so convinced that they're saved. You ask them what they believe, they'll tell you the most outrageous things you've ever heard in your life. They're deceived. Absolutely deceived. The few are those who've entered through the narrow gate, they're walking down the narrow way, headed to heaven. The many are those who are entered through the wide gate, and they're walking down the broad way that's headed to hell. And these are all kinds of people. These are Muslims and Buddhists and Mormons and atheists and moms and dads and grandparents and you name it. And so many people are deceived. When you look at this passage, the thing that really hits me upside the head is where, all right, according to Jesus, do most people go to heaven or do most people go to hell? You know, you would think it would say, you know, there's a few that enter in at the wide gate that goes there, but it says that many or most people enter in at the wide gate that leads to hell. Most people's experience at judgment will be this. Matthew 7, verse 21. He says, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father who's in heaven. All right? You know what that means? Just because you think you're saved doesn't mean you are. Just because you think you're saved doesn't mean you are. Verse 20, many will say to me. That's not the few, is it? That's most. Most people will say to Christ on the day of judgment, but Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and in your name cast out demons, and in your name perform many miracles? These are people who they looked a lot like Christians, and they sure did think they were Christians. They believed with all their heart they were saved. But then they stand at judgment and get the shock of their life because Jesus declares to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who practice lawlessness. It's not about do you know Jesus, it's about does Jesus know you? There's a lot of people that know about Him, but they don't really know Him. It is absolutely possible that you are here today. You know, deceived people are not just out in the world. They come to church on Sundays too. It is absolutely possible that you're here today and you absolutely believe that if you died right now, you'd go to heaven. But in reality, Jesus doesn't know you. Not savingly. You're not right with God. You don't belong to God. It's just not true. But you keep going through life thinking that it is so, even though it is not so. And you're going to have the same experience that this person has in Matthew 7. You're going to stand before God at judgment, and you're going to get the shock of your life. Jesus is going to say, "Depart from me, I never knew you." And then you're going to go to hell, and there you're going to spend your eternity. There's some of you, you may be here this morning, and you're asleep. You are deceived by Satan. And you need to wake up, and you need to come to the Lord. I read this years ago, and I always held on to it. Billy Graham had been preaching in different areas of the country. And there was a man that wrote this into the paper. He says, after hearing Dr. Billy Graham on air, viewing him on television, and reading reports and letters concerning him and his mission, I am heartily sick of the type of religion that insists that my soul and everyone else's needs saving. I have never felt I was lost, nor do I feel that I daily wallow in the mire of sin, although repetitive preaching insists that I do. Give me a practical religion that teaches gentleness and tolerance, that acknowledges no barriers or color or creed, that remembers the aged and teaches children goodness and not sin. And then he says this, if in order to save my soul I must accept such a gospel as I have recently heard preached, I prefer to remain forever damned. And he will be, because there's one way to heaven, and it's Jesus Christ. That's it. So what are you going to do today? You know, throughout here he says there's two gates. And entering in at these two gates, there's two ways. And walking down these two ways, on their way to two different destinations, are two kinds of people, the many and the few. Now, who are you? Are you in the many, on your way to heaven? Are the many on the way to hell? Are you in the few, on your way to heaven? It's a choice that you have to make. I can't make it for you. Your neighbor can't make it for you. Your family can't make it for you. You have to make it yourself. But here's the good news. It's just one choice. It's just right now. All you have to do is say, Lord, I give my life to you. Here I am. I bow myself at your feet. My life is yours. And the moment you do that, right there on the spot, you are instantly born again, instantly saved, instantly in the family of God, and permanently on your way to heaven. That's the best news I've ever heard. Amen? Father, thank you for the time that you've given us together today. And Lord, my prayer is that there's not a single person here that would leave today unsaved. Lord, there's absolutely no reason for someone to leave this place today lost. God, I pray that right now where they're at, they would realize that you love them so much that you gave up your only begotten Son. I pray they would realize that all they have to do is give their life to you and you'll save them. And Lord, I pray that right now they would not care what anybody else thinks. They would only care about what you think. And they would come to Jesus. In His name we pray. Amen.
Number 281. Let's stand together. 281. Speaking my heart.